So glad to have you with us.
This is CNN Breaking News.
All righty, first for you, I want to share something that's new this morning. Huge fireballs have been lighting up the sky in Syria, and Syria is blaming Israel for the attack. Look at this.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
The explosions rocked a suburb of the capital, Damascus, overnight. A Syrian state television says Israeli rockets slammed into a scientific research center. I want to bring in CNN's Sarah Seidner, who's in Jerusalem. Sarah, I know that Syria is blaming Israel for the blast, but has there been any response yet from Israel?
Not publicly. Israeli officials here in the capital have not confirmed or denied that there was an attack by Israel into Syria, and they haven't said anything about what may or may not have been hit. What we do have is comment from a senior defense official who I spoke with earlier in the day, who said that, quote, "We are watching everything going on as far as the transfer of weapons in Syria. We are watching it closely, and we have the means to do that." That is from a senior defense official here in the capital. Now, I want to also talk about what has happened in the past. We heard from U.S. officials, sources telling us that somewhere Thursday night or Friday that there was an attack, and they do believe that it was Israeli warplanes that attacked inside of Syria, but attacked from Lebanon airspace. Trying to knock out perhaps a convoy that may have been either attempting to or about to transfer weapons, not chemical weapons per se, but weapons, very dangerous weapons, what Israel called game-changing weapons, into the hands of Hezbollah, which is in Lebanon, an organization both Israel and the United States considers a terrorist organization. Time and again, we have heard publicly and off the record as well from Israeli officials. Time and again, we've heard the same statements, that Israel will not allow the transfer of dangerous weapons or chemical weapons, weapons of mass destruction, into the hands of Hezbollah, which is its enemy. They do believe Hezbollah, of course, is a front group for Iran, and they just absolutely have been adamant that if they see weapons being transferred, that they will act. Christy?
Is there any gauge at this point, Sarah, of how far this thing could go when you mention, Lebanon and warplanes that have been flying overhead there? Any gauge at all as to how incendiary this may get?
Well, here's the great concern from Israel's perspective in the region, and that is that they believe if there is going to be something that happens, for example, that comes into Israel where Israel is attacked, that it will likely be coming from Hezbollah. That's been said in the past, that they believe that Hezbollah would be for perhaps the first to make a move there on the Lebanese border. So that is of great concern, I think, here. What is not of concern, which is interesting, is that they don't think that Syria is going to necessarily turn around and start trying to attack Israel, because the Syria regime at this point has its own problems. It's trying to deal with this war that's gone on for more than 2 years and is really in a situation where it's having trouble trying to keep itself in power. So what we may see is over the next coming days a response. We may not see a response, because a response from Hezbollah will mean that Israel, the United States perhaps, will have to back Israel up as well. And it's not necessarily certain that Hezbollah will take any action, but we'll have to wait and see, Christy.
All righty, Sarah Seidner live for us there. Sarah, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And I want to let you know we're being joined right now, too, on the phone by CNN reporter Fred Pleitgen. He's actually in Damascus. So, Fred, I understand you just left the office of the Deputy Foreign Minister in Damascus. What did he say?
Well, he was obviously very angry, Christy, about this attack. He said that this was, quote, a work that was done by the Israelis to support Islamist terrorists here in Syria who are fighting against the government. The government, of course, says that the opposition that it's fighting are all terrorists. So he said that this was an alliance between terrorists, between Salafists and the Israeli military. He was very angry, and he called this, and I quote, a declaration of war by Israel against Syria. So he was very angry. And I can tell you from last night, we witnessed the explosions that happened after these initial hits, and they were going on for hours after the initial hits took place. They were lighting up the sky here in Damascus. There was a lot of gunfire also going on because apparently troops there on the ground, Bashar al-Assad's troops, were so confused by these explosions that they started firing into the air. They started firing their machine guns because they didn't know what was going on. Some people were speculating whether or not one of these hits might have been on an ammunition dump, and so therefore you heard explosions for such a very long time. But I can tell you, the Syrian capital last night was absolutely rocked by explosions for hours, and it sounded like full-on war for a very long time, Christy.
There right now, in terms of trying to find people and people who are injured, people who are killed, is there a death toll? What do we know?
Well, there's no death toll whatsoever, because one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that we're probably not going to find out how many people were actually killed, because what was hit last night was one of the most secretive places in this country. It's a place that has a lot of the elite Republican Guard units of the Syrian military. It's that research facility that's basically off limits to everyone, so it is something where it's very difficult to get details. I asked the Deputy Foreign Minister whether he could even tell me what exactly was hit, if there was anything else hit except that alleged research facility. And all he was willing to say was that it was assets of Syria's Defense Department that were hit. It's a very secretive area. It's in some mountains around Damascus that are very hard to access. There's a lot of checkpoints there. You don't get very close to there simply because it's a very militarized zone, and not many Syrians, or almost no Syrians, even know what is going on there. But clearly, something very big was hit there last night, judging by the explosions. We'll probably never find out how many people were actually killed, but I can tell you from speaking to people who live around that area, a lot of them ran into shelters and tried to get away from those explosions and felt the pressure waves even outside of that military area, Christy.
All right, Fred Plotkin, live for us there in Damascus. Fred, thank you so much for bringing us the latest. We appreciate it. And now...